I know that every single player on our list, they left nothing out there. Does that help? Yeah, that just helps in terms of my own mental state of not ever having that opportunity to play in a grand final and more importantly, win one. My skills weren't great. I was soft as bugger. I played on the wing, played outside a lot. Got lucky a few times to have shots. I didn't nail them because I was just absolutely shitting myself, to be honest, mate. Because I got 30-year-olds running around trying to whack me behind the ear.
And you're still 15 at that stage.
The most significant part and the thing that fuels you in adrenaline is running out for that first time, going through the banner, packed house. That's what gets you, I want this every week. 97 was a heartbreak.
Well, they talk about Libba and a goal that wasn't called a goal.
I was on the goal line. I've said the whole time that it was a goal. The goal umpire obviously thought it went over the post, I reckon. But that was our own fault in a way because we were 20-odd points up at three-quarter time. We kicked 0-6 in the last quarter. Adelaide got on fire and fought their way back and took the win off us and then went on to win the granny.
What do you reckon positivity has done for your life?
Well, I've just always loved sport passionately, Howie. Regardless how hard things are getting or how poor your performance may be, don't ever fall out of love with this game. I knew I put everything into every session, into every week, into every game, into every year. I'm good with that. I'm actually happy with that.
Well, some days you get in your car and you drive up the highway, you go through Geelong, you arrive in Melbourne and you have a serious lift because of the guest that is about to join you. And sometimes you have a defined path with a guest, other times you don't. This guest I have none, but before you hear his voice, there's a famous song by Green Day, which I'm going to now play this guest 15 seconds of, and this man proves this song wrong. Here comes what you're after. Nice guys do not always finish last. Nice guys do not always run out of gas. Nice guys arrive in the studio with a green tea for the host and a smile on their face. This man, he's the nicest guy on the planet. You speak to anybody that's played football with him, that's worked with him, they just say he's a ripper bloke. So today it's about positivity on the Howie Games. Brad Johnson welcomes us. We welcome to the show. How are you, mate?
I'm good, Howie. How are you? Thanks for that
mate,
great intro.
Nice guys don't always finish last.
Well, yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. Sometimes it's sort of been known as that, hasn't it? But yeah, hopefully been able to change that. Man, I used to put the apple on the desk for the teacher. I never did, but that was the story that you had to do it. I thought, how can I help? How can I just throw something at you, Howie?
And you brought me a green tea.
I didn't know what. I knew you didn't drink coffee.
Well, see, you knew that about me.
I did.
You knew, but so I've obviously mentioned that once in conversation. Yes. Nice guys, remember these type of things. I'll tell you about tea, Johnno. I'm glad you brought some tea in because...
Do you like green tea, number one? I guessed.
4 years ago, no interest in tea. None. And during COVID... I was with the beautiful Erica and we were homeschooling, which you will have gone through, being in Victoria where we couldn't leave our house for 274 days or whatever. Anyway, let's not bring down the tone, Johnno. And my delightful wife said, because we'd go out and originally when we first started dating, I would have a hot chocolate. She said, it's like growing out with a 12-year-old. So then I upgraded to soda water and she said, you are so boring. So during COVID, she said to stay connected, she loves a coffee. We need to share a hot drink. So for 2 years, I battled through drinking tea together. And then I went to India and I discovered masala tea, which is like a spicy tea mixed with milk.
Right.
And I've replicated it at home. And I was telling some of the boys I work with on the footy the other night.
You've replicated it at home.
Yeah, so I've got a similar tea bag. Yep. I've got the consistency right. So the Royal Oberoi Hotel in Kolkata, if you ever go there, if you're listening, you need to get yourself one of these masala teas. Change your life. So they gave me some tea bags to bring home and I sort of figured out how I could replicate it here. And we now sit, as we did before I came up to do this, on the front stoop, as we call it, after the kids go to school. And she has her coffee and I have a pot of tea. And we've always got on well. Obviously, that's why we're married. But it has taken our relationship to the next level, Johnno, because we sit there every morning and we talk about what's going on with the kids, what I'm doing that day. And so for you to tap in to how important tea is in my life now.
Well, it is your basic green, let's be honest.
It's still very good. It's still very, very, very good.
You're a calm guy. You don't need to be calmed anymore. But...
Well, no. Now, as I said, we will talk about football and we need to talk about the business you and Donna are running. But before we get to that, you and I, as soon as we see each other at Fox Footy, first thing, just see the Grand Prix last night. So you have, before we get to the Grand Prix, you have a son that wants to be a car racing driver. which Nathan Buckley's kids are going down the same path. So to set the scene, we'll be getting ready to do a game of footy, and Bucks will be on his screen, and Johnno will be on his screen watching their lunatic sons race go-karts around Victoria, which I love. How do you find being a motor racing parent?
Well, I'm getting used to it, although it's still a world that I'm learning a lot in, Howie. It's completely different. You know, a pair of boots and a mouth guard's a lot easier
as opposed to a go-kart.
Yes, that's it. And so it all started for us, Jack, when he was about 9.
Jack Johnson.
Johnson, yes.
Great name.
Thank you, mate.
Jack Johnson.
That is pretty cool, isn't it? We did listen to Jack Johnson when we were
we
growing
were
up, Donna and I. So
he's been on this podcast as well, Jackie Johnson.
There you go. So yeah, Jack, he always, we went to the Grand Prix and he got to go down the main straight as a little kid in a motorised Ferrari. And it was just before the race started. So the crowd's going nuts. And here he is going down the main straight, and he was just obsessed from that moment. So he came home, wanted to start go-karting. I'm like, go-karting? Where do we go?
So no family history?
None whatsoever.
Right.
None.
There's no Johnson way back in the day that was racing a quarter.
I wish there was.
Okay.
I wish there was now that I know a little bit more about it. If it was generational, Howie, it's a whole different ballgame. So we had no idea, and I said, You're not go-karting. We'll go to Ace Karts. You can do it there, sort of thing. And so he played footy for a few years, and when he was, I said,
did he suffer with this is Brad Johnson's son?
No, he didn't really, and that because he was so young still. He was only under 9s, 10s, and 11. I said, when you're 12, come and see me, and we'll talk about it seriously, because I just knew nothing about it. I thought, let's get you, make sure he's a little bit older before we even look at this. Maybe you go okay at footy and forget about it as well.
And you just need the mouth guard and boots.
Yeah, that's it. So, and then the day he turned 12, we rocked up at footy training. And he said to me, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to play. And I went, I was wrapped, because he wasn't that into footy anyway. And for him to then openly sort of say that was huge. And we went home, and the next thing we're buying a go-kart, and we started that journey at age 12 or 13. And so he's been racing his go-kart for the last 4 or 5 years. And now he's just stepped into a Hyundai Excel to take that next step to learning to drive. And it's like I said, it's just a world that we've had to navigate with what we can afford, to be honest. So that's just the reality of it. And you learn a lot along the way. There's some really good people that are willing to help you. We've got a good little team around us now, and that's stepped him into the cars, which has been brilliant, because Gary Rogers Motorsport have helped us get started in terms of meeting the right people, and Ben Barguana's his coach, who's going really well in
Jason
TCR
Barguana's
level.
brother, who used to drive for Gary back in the day.
So we're sort of lucky that all of that has played out, because that was the biggest thing for me. If Jack's going to step into a car, he needs to be coached the right way. You need to learn all aspects of it before you start taking those next steps forward.
How do you feel now he's in a car? So that's racing, and go-karts, you can have accidents. We see Buck's young bloke rolled off down the hill and did some damage to himself. What is it like for you and Donna now watching a young man racing a car?
Oh, he's fully committed, so we're quite comfortable with it, to be honest, because he's putting the work in. And it's like anything, Howie, if you put the work in and you can see a full dedication to wanting to be the best that you can be, then you're actually okay with it, because he's committed to learning. He doesn't pretend to know it all. So when he's told something, he'll execute. So all these things that we're seeing now, because he's 18, we're seeing a real maturity in the way that he's going about it. So we're like, okay, how can we support that the best that we possibly can? So the only nerve-wracking part is the starts. I think that's where I sort of get the most nervous, getting off the line, getting going. Once you find the position, then you're away. You start fighting. You start trying to build your way through the field and things like that. But it's more just the start, and then they're away. And the level's pretty good. It's a great stepping stone. So we just wait to see what happens in the future.
The thing they say, Johnno, about motorsport is the rhetorical question, how do you make $1 million in motorsport? And the answer is start with 10. So it's an expensive caper. So if anyone wants to get invested, I'm sure there's panels. So just get hold of Johnno. He's on social media. If you've got a business out there, the Barwonheads Brewing Co. are investigating at the moment. We're not cash flow positive at the moment. But this is part of what you need to do, unless you are, even if you are a Lewis Hamilton and top flight karter in Europe, you need to have money behind you or sponsors behind you to succeed in any level of this sport, which I don't think a lot of people realise, Johnno.
Yeah, that's the tough part. It doesn't, and this certainly wasn't about talking about that, to be honest with you, Howie. But that's the reality of the sport, and you do need that support. We need that support for Jack to be able to go forward. He's got some great support at the moment, which has allowed us to step from karting into.
Well, give him a plug, Johnno.
Cars. Well,
look after your sponsors.
Where do we start?
No,
I'm joking.
Right.
I'm joking.
Right.
I'm joking. So, accredited distributors are the main sponsor.
Accredited distributors.
Accredited distributors. So
what
they
do?
all. Like all your Allen's Lollies and Red Bull and all of those sort of things. So,
and who do we deal with there? Who's the contact there?
So Bainey's my main man.
Bainey, all right. Love to you, Bainey.
So he's the main. He's a big Bulldogs guy from the past, and yeah, he's a great guy and loves supporting young people trying to get further in their sport. So he's been brilliant.Lee Colbert does a great. Looks after us. He's got Macca's
in Macca's,
Mildura.
hasn't he?
Yeah,
of course he does.
So he's and Colby gets it. Like he's been around the motorsport world for a long period of time. So
if you're in Mildura, drop in and see Colby.
See Colby. So Jaco Geelong have been good.
Jaco Geelong as well. Heavens above.
No, but this is the thing, and I've got Geelong Travel and
they're the ones that made those. Geelong Travel made those ads with Joel and the Selwood boys.
The Stewie Cofield's great. So
and who else did you just mention off the back of that?
No, Morris Finance.
Morris
as well.
Finance.
Yeah, so
Tommy, I've never seen a man come on and plug his sponsors as well as Johnno
I'm
is now
probably
doing.
missing Buxton. Whoever else? I'm missing some.
Oh, no.
But they're only they're only little, but they've been great supports for Jack through his karting and now through this. But the aspect of it too is they're backing in someone who hasn't achieved anything yet. Even that's the hard part with the whole sponsorship side of things of motorsport. So look, I'm happy. I dig in and I do the ads for them and voiceovers and jump on to go talk to their workers and leadership, and so I love doing all that sort of stuff to help them as well, because they're supporting Jack. So if I can do anything as well to help out, I'll do that. But you're right, mate. If we want to take the next level, right? Go to the next level.
Get in touch with Johnno. Get in touch now.
We'll give you a plug. That's for sure.
You've just heard that. Now we will get to footy for the Dogs fans out there, but. If you don't like Formula One, I never say this in a pod, but just skip the next 5 minutes, because your man Brad Johnson calls it how it is on the footy field. I'm now randomly going to pose questions to you, and I want no fence sitting.
Okay.
All right? So we both love our Formula One. Daniel Ricciardo, currently racing the old Red Bull second team Visa, the RB or whatever they're called now. Will Daniel Ricciardo be on the grid in 2025? Now, he came in, there was talk he was going to take over from Perez. He's battling to beat your man Yuki Tsunoda, although they had a good result as we're recording this at the last start in China. Will Ricciardo be racing next year? No fence sitting.
Where's Sergio at? Do you know that? Because that's where it lies, doesn't it?
It does, but I don't want answers to my questions. I don't want further questions.
Will he be racing? Yes.
Yes, in Formula One.
In Formula One.
Okay.
Will it be with Red Bull? I'm not too sure, because Sergio's flying.
Okay.
So that's the thing. Will Daniel want to sit where he is at the moment? Maybe he will, because he's back in and driving, and it's also at his age to still have a seat and still fighting. I think he'd love to remain where he is. So
see, I've always wanted to do a Formula One podcast. So this is what we're going into now. Yes. Next question. I read in the paper just yesterday that Mercedes were tabling. So it said that Lewis is getting about 120 million US at Ferrari, but there's all sorts of side deals with his foundations and various other things. But the reported number in the paper for your man Max, who is currently getting about 55 million US from all reports a season with Red Bull, is that your man Toto Wolff would come in and said, I'll pay you 250 million US a year.
No.
Do you think Max Verstappen will be driving a Red Bull next year?
No chance.
No chance. He's taking the cash. Well, this is unreported.
It's unreported, but with what Max has achieved, and he wants to win. Mm-hmm. Is he the difference to make? Is he the difference for Mercedes? It comes down to the car at that level. We understand that. So he takes some IP with him. Number
he does.
one, so
my word,
that's
does.
Worth a fair clip. So he's achieved so much already. So what's Max's drive, do you think, going forward? Is it just to stay at Red Bull and continue to be their number one guy for
but
a few
if
more
he
years?
stays,
What are they going to match it with?
Well, if he stays, so he's got 3 titles. He'll win 4 this year.
He's got 4.
And 5 next year till the new regulations come in. So he goes to Mercedes, potentially stepping away from world titles. But is he going to be there, yes or no, next year, Max? In Brad Johnson's world?
Yes.
He will stay at Red Bull. Okay. Now, Lewis has gone to Ferrari to take on your man, Charles Leclerc. The other thing I read yesterday
He's good, Charles, isn't he?
He's very good.
Got his signature this year. Well, I didn't. Jack did.
He's good, but my wife is infatuated with Carlos Sainz, so she's a bit flat that Lewis is coming in. Well, who knows? I don't know. If Erica has her wish, he'll move to Barwon Heads, but I don't think that's happening, Johnno. So
I could see you on the first team with him at Barwon Heads.
Carlos. Well, if he moved to town, I'm shadowing him everywhere. I'm not letting him out of my sight. Now, the other big story, Adrian Newey, who's designed all the championship cars over the last 25 years, he's out of Red Bull. There's a bidding war. There's talk that he may go to Ferrari.
So what's he worth, Howie?
He's worth more than anyone else in the paddock for mine. Because it doesn't matter how good Max and Lewis are. If this bloke's not designing you a good car, you're no good.
So he gets more than the driver?
Well, he wouldn't, but...
Should he?
Well, should Craig McRae get more than Nick Dacos? That's the question you're asking.
No.
Me. Well, therefore, you're saying Lewis should get more than Newey.
Yes.
Okay, qualifying next year. I think there's meant to be 24 races. Charles Leclerc versus Lewis Hamilton in his first year in the Ferrari, head-to-head in qualifying. What's the score going to be? And as I said, if you're not into Formula One, buzz forward because I got plenty more where this came from.
It's just, we've just got to bridge the gap because I play F1 fantasy every week, right? And I'm getting out to you get to select what the winning margin will be, and you're picking 15 plus seconds every race.
You often ask me, what do you think? And I say, add another 10 seconds.
That's an
Johnno.
issue for me.
It is. It's not good for the sport.
If it bridges the gap in the sport at the top end, so we're not racing for second or third, we're actually racing for the win, and we see something different happen there. I think that's where it needs to go anyway.
Agree, but you're still avoiding the question. Head-to-head in qualifying. Lewis, first time in the Ferrari versus Charles, probably the best qualifier out there. And he's been in the Ferrari.
Charles wins. Charles gets
24 races. What's the score?
Charles will lead it.
Okay.
Yeah, Charles is still number one.
Righto.
So Hamilton will probably want to go there being number one, but no, Charles will still be looked after number one. So if Lewis needs to pull over, he'll get it on he'll get told on the headset.
I won't be happy with that.
No, but that's
I know. Final question
for you.
Who is the next Formula One world champion that is not Max Verstappen?
I love this.
That's a good question.
Isn't it?
So,
Lando.
Lando. Yeah, now Erica loves the Formula One as well. She's very big on Lando. Very big on Lando. So you reckon
Donna.
Right. So you reckon Lando in the McLaren is the next non-Max Verstappen world champion?
So.
Beating Oscar to the title.
He'll get Oscar to the title.
Will Oscar Piastri ever be a Formula One world champion?
Probably not.
Ooh.
Probably not world champion.
Okay.
But he'll win a lot of races along the way, but I'm not sure whether he'll ever be world. I think Lando will, you think for the next period of time, and I go, okay, the next 4 or 5 years, I think Lando stays at McLaren. I think he becomes is their number one guy. It's whether the move for Oscar stays there. As a McLaren driver, I can't see him being world champion. If he does move eventually,
could be.
That's going to be his only opportunity.
I think from now on we do a 2 month, twice a month. We just do your and my nuffy, complete no idea thoughts on Formula One.
4 or 5 races go by. Come back
the Howie
and assess it all.
Games, Formula One, no dramas at all. Now, before we get to footy, one of the reasons you're here today, what I want to talk to you about, is because off the back of your wife, Donna, an idea she had. You two, and I understand a little bit about small business. So we run a small business at my place. How much effort and time goes into a small business. Tell us about Zena Sport. Tell us about how it came to pass. And this is not just a plug for what Johnno's doing. This is what a lot of athletes struggle with when they finish their career. It's what's next. And you and your wife, which I think is really cool, have thrown yourself into a business that is of enormous benefit to the sporting community, I reckon, mate.
It's a good point you make, Howie, in terms of what's next after playing, because Look, I was sort of lucky enough that I prepared to sort of step into the media and away we went.
Well,
but
with that skin and nice smile, you were always destined, mate. With that cheeky
it's coastal,
grin.
you know that.
That's
Howie.
right. I know it is.
Coastal.
I know it is. It's the good life.
It is. It's a grind sometimes driving up and down the highway, but when you walk in the door,
that's right. And you look
$1
million.
It's very good. So, but that was the biggest thing for me. It got to the point where I was waiting for the weekends to come around to go to work. And so Monday to Friday, I was sitting there just, go play golf once a day, once a week. No structure whatsoever. And
did that weigh on you? Or
it's more the competitive edge somehow weighed on me. So I wasn't working. I was, like I said, I was just waiting for a Thursday to come around or a Friday to get dig into the Fox stuff and away we go.
So you were just a frequent Packington Street coffee drinker.
Pretty much. Which was good at the beginning.
You
it honestly was.
You were big moons.
No, the first 3 years when we moved to Torquay first, and for 3 years it was great because I needed to take a breath, honestly, because it was just all consuming for 17 years and we were like, we got to just stop, take a chance here and get to know each other and away we went. So we spent 3 years in Torquay and then moved back to Newtown, and from there it sort of just, it just sort of started to eat away a little bit more. And I need to be more active. I need to do something a little bit different. And it was by chance, Donna was just sitting with her girlfriend and they were talking about her 3 girls. AFLW was just starting to go. Girls footy was just starting to really become more popular and more structured in clubs. So they had the opportunity to play against each other. And so we just she was with her girlfriend and they were talking about her daughters playing, and one had a knock to the breast, and we just thought, she was uncomfortable. What's out there to support her? I used to wear a rib guard in my last year because I had a bruised we're just wondering what was available for the female athlete, and there was nothing. So we just sort of started a bit of research in the background, and Donna brought the idea home. I said, go for it. Like, it's in the sporting world. It's what we love. Let's just explore it and see what
How long ago was this?
So this was about 7 years ago when we first had that conversation. And so we tried for 6 months. We had no idea what we were doing at all.
Well, you're going into manufacturing, aren't you?
We had no idea. And so for 6 months, we're sort of trying our best to navigate it. Where can we get things from? What can we do? Couldn't find anything. And then Donna made we sort of had given up on the idea. And then Donna made one last sort of email and then call to a designer in Sydney. And within 24 hours, the designer had come back and said, I love what your thought process is here. I think I can help you. Leave it with me. And then within another 6 months, we had our first vest on the table.
So
because her background allowed that to happen quite quickly.
So you've brought one of your newer vests in now. So grab it out, and I'll sort of try and describe it to people. It's when you see the footballers wearing the GPS setup with the over the shoulder holster. It's basically what you're providing is a chest protector with. What have you got in there?
Yeah, so it's basically just breast and rib protection. That's the easiest way to describe it.
And what's within the?
So it's just it's just the foam, but that was the most important part of our product because it had to be built a certain way that was completely different to what you would traditionally see with foam products, and it had to mold to the body really well because we're talking about females of the different sizes and shapes. So we had to come up with something that would sit really well on them, was light, that wouldn't restrict their movement. So we had to go through all these trials of about 2 or 3 years just getting that right to make sure that when we were ready to go, it was spot on. The elite girls loved it. The community girls loved it. The 12-year-old loved it. The returning mum to play loved it. So there were all these sort of things that we thought about in those early stages before we launched it. And it's been awesome. Like, honestly, Howie, we have one has brought back the competitive juices. We want to be like the very best again, and it's just got us going. And secondly, participation's going through the roof. So if we can support the female athlete out there, and they just wear it over their normal crop top or bra and put it on, and off they go. You cannot see it under the jumper or jersey or whatever. So we started in footy, mate, and now we're in about 20 different sports, and it's great. Like even sports like goalball, which we do stuff with Blind Sports Australia, because goalball would wear a hard plastic when they were diving on the ground, and it was uncomfortable, would dig in. They wear our vest now. They can dive around comfortably. Their ribs don't get hurt, neither does their breast, and they're they're performing so well, and like it was at the Tokyo Olympics. So I'm sitting there going, how good is this? We're at the Olympics, you know what I mean?
So what's it like when you go and watch a community game of football and you realise that lady out there, that girl out there is wearing one of our Zena tops? Like that must be what it's all about. Yeah?
That's the rewarding part of it, and especially now we've got a youth fest which is 7 to 12-year-olds, and seeing the young ones learning the craft of the game, and they're wearing our vest to do it. It's pretty rewarding. Sort of that's what it's designed for, to give you confidence, get you out there, absorb some contact, you recover better, and you feel better about yourself. You've got some more confidence, because junior sport, there's all different levels, as we know. So
and sizes.
So we support everyone in all different sports, whether it's a high impact sport like footy or rugby, or whether it's a little bit more lower impact, considered like a soccer or a basketball or a lacrosse, but still you're copping hits consistently. So it's not always the big hit, it's the continual little ones that can cause you some issues as well. So it's been so much fun.
Well, I was looking on your website, as I said to you when you walked in here, and it was describing if women had had breast augmentation, or they'd had a mastectomy or a double mastectomy, and like the fact you're supporting all those range of athletes. So if there'll be people listening to this and think, I'd love to get one of those. I'd love to get one of those for my daughter. I'd love to get those at our club. What's the website? How do people get involved?
Yeah, so it's just zenasport.com.au, and then also Instagram is our and Facebook, which is just zenasport_co. So
jump on.
Simple as that.
And tell them you heard about in the Howie Games. And
yes.
You'll get
we'll look after you.
94% discount. Don't worry about that. You might get a cup of green tea in as well. I look forward to hearing about how that goes. Now, Johnno, footy. You're a Western Suburbs man who went and played for your club, but tell me, what's the first footy memory you have of either playing or going?
Playing was juniors at Hoppers Crossing.
So that's where your family shop
started.
What'd your old man do?
So he worked in the railways.
Right.
And Mum worked at the council.
Right.
So
what's your dad's name?
Bruce.
Brucey boy,
yes.
Brucey Johnson. And what about your mum?
Lorraine
Johnson. Brucey and Lorraine.
Really.
Right.
So we
salt to the earth, sounds like, so out of Hoppers way.
So that's where I started. It was great fun. I remember I wasn't allowed to play until I was under 13. So I was held back. But
Lorraine,
in some ways,
was Lorraine saying just ease up?
A little bit, but I was more into athletics and basketball, to be honest, growing up. Athletics was the sport I still love.
What was your event?
I was sort of into the hurdles, and then I wasn't the tallest guy, so I'd sort of distance was okay. But then what happened, Howie? We started to I'd go represent Werribee at the state level. You go to Olympic Park and all the other clubs around Victoria were there, and you were racing against them, and you'd go there, I'd do one hurdle event, be knocked out, and I'm done, right? And you spend all day, and I'd get bored, right? So I needed to do stuff.
So you threw yourself into a couple of other events?
So they had like a mini decathlon.
Oh, Daley Thompson style material.
Yes, right.
Have you ever met him?
No, but I would love to.
I spent
one of my all-time favourite athletes, mate, right there.
I produced him and Dave Colbert calling the athletics in Athens in 2004. You will not. Everything you think about him.
Is he a good man? Please
he's
tell
even
me.
Better.
Love it.
He's even better. So you were the next Daley Thompson out of Werribee.
Decathlon was my thing, right? So
Did you do the pole vault?
Well, no, we didn't go. We were not that much, but I don't know what we had. We had discus, we had long jump, we had the 100, the hurdles, the 800. Yep. There might have been one other in there, but I was in them all, and I was active, and I was occupied more so for Mum, I think, than anything else. So
Lorraine could just leave you there for 6 hours. Is okay.
He's all right. But I love that level, and that was my thing. Basketball I enjoyed doing as well. And then I started playing footy. I had to wear a helmet in my first year. That was the proviso. But going into Hoppers, I knew some of the kids because I went to primary school with them. But then you're sort of walking into a new club and all those sort of things.
What are they, Hoppers? The Hoppers what?
Oh, they were the Cats back then. They're the Warriors now.
Okay.
So I just walked in, and I was sort of lucky. My first practice game, I think I might have kicked 5. Maybe,
I haven't listened to him, Tommy. I think I might have kicked 5. He's pulled out the newspaper clippings. Johnson on fire. It's unbelievable.
First impressions count, Howie, in footy, right?
Yeah,
so you know
funny.
that.
It's funny you can remember
that.
Had to
make a good first impression.
Because you wandered in here. I said, mate, just checking. You played the most games of the Bulldogs. You're like, yeah. I said, I think you're on second on the goal kicking. He said, I'm not sure about that. So you remember that you kicked 5 for Hoppers.
There's a couple of moments you remember.
But you don't necessarily remember you kicked the second most goals ever for the Western Bulldogs.
You remember the big moments when you've kicked a lot of them.
Okay.
But as you're coming through, there's probably 4 or 5 significant moments that help shape
Yep.
where you go.
What was your biggest bag at a junior game of footy?
Biggest bag was probably only 5 or 6. It was never.
You weren't
like
at
you hear
12,
the
mate.
12,
Blokes are
18. I walked
Yeah,
out like
Jason Dunstall style.
That'd be nice though, wouldn't it?
Were you? Did you get to become a professional footballer through skill, or did you have to work really hard, or did you combine the two?
No, it was work really hard.
So you're a work rate man.
Yeah, that was me. So my skills weren't great. I was soft as bugger. I played on the wing, played outside a lot.
Okay.
So when I was under 15s, I played in one of the rep teams locally, Western Region Footy League, and I had a poor carnival, and a lot of the guys got invited to go and train with the Bulldogs under 19s, and I wasn't one that did. So I sort of thought, what do I need to do sort of differently here? So as a 15-year-old, I went and, wish you could back then, I went and knocked on the door of Williamstown VFA.
At 15?
At 15 in their under 19s. And I sort of, Dad knew a guy and we walked in and, I started training with them. They didn't know I was 15. And I ended up making their list for... So
that first year as a 15-year-old?
First year as a 15-year-old.
In the VFA?
Yeah, so I'm playing at 19s. And then throughout the year, I got more confident playing against, older kids, young men. And then my last 4 games in that year, I played in the VFA 2s, the Willie 2s, which was an awesome experience. So a memory, I kicked 1 goal 7 in my first VFA 2s game.
1 goal 7,
Yeah.
Johnno.
I should have gone the other way. It would have been nice, wouldn't it?
You must have had a bit of the footy,
No, it was just, I played in the forward pocket and I was just running around everywhere and got lucky a few times as well to have shots. I didn't nail them because I was just absolutely shitting myself, to be honest, mate.
Of course.
I got 30-year-olds running around trying to whack me behind the ear.
And you're still 15 at that
And
stage.
I just turned 16 at that particular point. And then what I did, though, from Williamstown, I went back and played in the under-18 competition that we know of today.
And you used to play with the big boys then.
My confidence was through the roof. So I went as a 15-year-old, didn't know where my footy was going to go, I was drafted at 17. So it turned really quickly by just taking that bit of ownership about where I wanted to go within my sport, because that was my dream, was to play AFL footy.
So were you a Bulldogs man?
I was a Bulldog supporter.
Who was your man? Who'd you look up to?
Well, Chris Grant was my man because I was 13, 14 and he was 17, 18 and kicking 50 in his first year. And like, how good's this guy? You know what I mean? And Dougie Hawkins, of course. Steve Wallace was an absolute champion of a guy and teammate.
You're one of those rare kids that grows up in the region. You get to play a bit like Callum Ward did, by the way, because he was from that part of the world, wasn't he?
That's right, Spotswood.
So what year did you get drafted?
So I got drafted in 93, end of 93.
And what was that process like in 93? It wouldn't have been televised.
No, it was.
It was televised.
I wore the worst shirt you've ever seen.
We need to find some vision
of
of this.
Goodness.
Really?
Interviewed by Sandy Roberts.
Robbie the Big Sandals.
I didn't want to go because at the time you doubt yourself. So you get invited to the draft and I was like, I'm not going to the draft.
Tell me about your shirt.
No way. It was
Tell
this, I don't know, it was this floral.
He's made a statement.
I thought I
was
looked so good, right? Tucked in, top button done up in the early stages. If it was today, I think it'd be
cool. You'd be a hipster.
Yeah, but back then,
this is bad.
So bad. I think I had the spike happening with the hair. So
you're rolling. You had a chat to Sandy.
Yeah, had a chat to Sandy, and look, I think Mum enticed me. I think she knew.
Did you ever do a game of footy with Sandy down the track?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
yeah,
bizarre,
recently. Yeah, the last few years.
That's very cool.
One of the best ever, isn't he?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my first encounter, was being drafted.
And did you know that you were a chance at the Bull? What number did you go?
No, so I spoke to a lot of clubs in that year, but Mark Kleiman rang me.
Maxie?
Yeah, he was the Dogs recruiting guy, and the night before the draft, he rang me at home, and his conversation was, "How you going? Good. If you're around, will you come to the Bulldogs?" Absolutely. No, I'll see you later.
That was it?
That was it.
That was it?
That was my call to the Dogs.
Wow.
So I'd been to clubs and I'd trained with them. Adelaide sat in our lounge room 3 times. Geelong had spoken to me a few times. And you just sort of, your mind's everywhere. And I'm trying, and I was in year 11, so it wasn't too bad from a study point of view and things like that. So yeah, and then in the end.
So what number did you get picked?
So pick 11.
Pick 11, high pick.
Yeah, so the Dogs called me out and away we went.
End of year 11.
Yep.
So what's your first day at the Western Bulldogs? You're walking in.
So I walk in.
Heroes.
Oh, crikey. So I remember Doug Hawkins walking me in.
Did
which
he
was
really?
Pretty cool.
Wow. Because he was
the man.
He's the king, yeah?
And he sat me next to him in locker number 6. And then one of the team managers come over and said, no, you're not sitting here, son. Get over there.
You're not getting six, cobber.
So I got 33.
Oh, you were 33 first
which
up?
was Brian Royal's old number. He just retired.
That's a good number.
That was great. And then at the end of my first year, I got offered number 6 with the history of Charlie Sutton. And it was known at the club as Charlie's number because of what he'd achieved as a player and as a coach. So that was, and he was still around, Charlie. Like you'd walk into the rooms every game and he was there 2 hours before to shake your hand, pull you in close and wish you luck for the day. And then when I moved to 6, we even had that closer bond, which was pretty cool as well, and had a lot of luck attached to the number. So I got told all these things, and I wore 6 at the Western Jet, so it became my sort of number.
Right. So your first actual year, you're doing year 12.
Yeah, year 12.
So you'd finish school and go to training?
Yeah, so I went to school in Geelong. So
Where'd you go to school?
Chanel College, it was called. It was in Lovely Banks,
okay.
Which is, where the BP is on the ring road?
Yeah.
It's behind that, right?
It's a bit like Sunshine. The name doesn't necessarily sort of work out with where you might actually be.
Point.
Lovely Banks.
So,
hello to all the people there. I'm sure it is lovely.
It looks good anyway.
But like you go to Sunshine, you're like, Anyway.
So we'd get the bus from Hoppers to school, and then back then we trained quarter to 5 and would then obviously train, do our weights and everything, get home 9:30.
So would you turn up to training in your school uniform?
Yeah, so I'd either have Mum pick me up from the bus stop or Nigel Callett in the early days. He would pick me up and take me everywhere because he was from Hoppers as well. So he'd be waiting for me to take me to training and off we'd go. But Mum did the yards until I got my licence pretty much until when I turned 18. Then I'd drive to school, leave school and drive straight to training.
So when did you play your first? Did you play your first game that year?
That year, it was about round 16 or 18.
Well, Tommy would have written it down.
Yeah, I think it was 18.
What did he say?
I just turned 18 myself, and so I played my first game against the Pies at the Whitten Oval, which was massive because it was Tony Shaw's record-breaking
round
game.
18, Collingwood at the Whitten Oval. So what was going on? Tony Shaw was doing what?
He had a record-breaking game, I think, games record
for Collingwood
that
at
day.
Whitten Oval.
So it was nuts. It was packed to the rafters. So it was a great experience. And
was there a jumper prezzo or anything at that stage?
No.
It's just good luck, cock.
You're in.
Take your school uniform off, get out. Who was coach?
No, Alan Joyce.
Right.
I think it was the
two-time premiership man at Hawthorn.
He was. I think I found out on the footy show that I was in.
That's how you found out?
Yeah.
You just watched the footy show?
We used to watch the footy show to find out if we were in the team.
Wow.
So Eddie Maguire told me that I was playing my first game.
So you're sitting at home watching it in Hoppers?
Watching it because for about 5 weeks in a row I was an emergency and didn't get in. Finally, Eddie called my name out on the footy show.
So what are your memories? Well, Tommy's actually written that Libba gave you your first kick. Yep. And according to Tommy, who's obviously done some statistical work here,
he has.
You went and kicked it to Luke Beveridge.
I did, along the ground, but it went to Beveridge.
he left that. He's such a nice guy, Tommy. He left out that you absolutely munged it, apparently. So were your parents in the rooms or any of that stuff?
No, none
of that stuff.
No, none of that. It was.
Were you in awe of what was about to happen, or you were?
It's a bit of a blur. I can remember the kick. I can remember a couple of other things from the game, but not too much. The most significant part and the thing that fuels you in adrenaline is running out for that first time, going through the banner, packed house. That's what gets you, I want this every week. This is pretty cool to experience that. So the other little moments you remember, but it is a blur. Yeah, and it was intense. I remember it being so intense. But footy back then was run through the brick wall. It was full motivation of getting you to this arousal level of, you're going to break something. So
who was your opponent?
It was Mark Fraser.
Mark Fraser.
Yeah, it was my first opponent. And then I remember I played a little bit on Gavin Krasiska.
Gavin Krasiska. He's a pretty tough sort of dude.
Don't worry about that.
For you, when you take off your school uniform.
So I think the wing on Mark Fraser suited me in my first game. I could stay out wide. Although the wings were tight at Whitten Oval, it was a good first encounter. Then I played the remaining 9 games, and then there was about 9 of us, I think, that when we bowed out of the final series.
Which you got pretty close on.
Yeah, we were okay. That was the year that Billy kicked the one after the siren.
So tell us about, I actually went back and watched it. Qualifying final, lost to Geelong. You kicked a goal. Where were we on the ground when Billy, you talked about Sandy, the king of Geelong, the monkeys off the back,
That's
Billy.
It. And Danny Southern had played an unbelievable game, and they just got the ball. We hit the front. They smashed us early, fought back, hit the front, and then Billy gets that one out of the centre, gets to Billy, and he nailed the moment. So it was a good fight for us to get back into it. The next week we played Melbourne and they smashed us. I think Gary Lyon had kicked 10 to three-quarter time.
I hear about it reasonably regularly on SEN.
We do a little bit.
Well, once a week, to be fair.
He'll be happy that we've given it another
once a week I do hear that.
So he dominated us. But then after that, there was a few of us that went back and played in the Twos final series, and we won the flag. So it was the first premiership that I'd ever won. I'd been in a lot of grand finals as a junior, never won, and that was the only opportunity that I ever had throughout my entire career to play in and win a grand final. So that was pretty cool in my first year.
So how far into your career, Johnno, before you thought, I don't need to watch on the footy show. I know I'm playing and I'm comfortable and confident that I can do well, you had various coaches at this stage. Probably Terry's come there and there at some stage, Terry Wallace. How long into your career before you were, I'm good here, I'm good?
I was probably about 6 years in, I think, is when I started to play really consistent, higher level footy. So 97 under Plough, 98 started to develop and get going and be more consistent, but still knew that I had more to sort of improve on and to give. And then when he moved me back to play as a forward, that's when I knew that, I probably can compete every week here. If I stay healthy, I should be right. I don't have to hopefully worry too much about selection as long as my performance stays at a really high level. So that was the time where I probably felt that I was going to be okay for the next, 8 to 10 years.
Obviously, the club had a lot of success because you played in 5 or 6 prelims?
5.
5 prelims. So I've talked about this with Brownie and Darce before, especially those early ones. So Nathan Brown, Luke Darcy we're talking about, who I'm privileged to work with now. So 97, 98, one of them was they talk
97
about...
97 was a heartbreak.
Well, they talk about Libber and a goal that wasn't called a goal.
Well, I was on the goal line. I've said the whole time that it was a goal, but the goal umpire thought it went over the post, I reckon, because it was that tight. So that was our own sort of fault in a way, because we were 20 odd points up at three-quarter time. We kicked 0-6 in the last quarter. So it's not as if we didn't go and have a shot in the last quarter. We had 6 of them and couldn't nail one just to seal victory. Adelaide and Jarman got on fire and fought their way back and took the win off us, and then went on to win the granny.
And so a situation like that, Johnno, obviously anyone that comes on this show, there's ups and downs. More ups for you, but you're in the rooms afterwards. You've put everything into it. How did Brad Johnson, and we'll talk about positivity and what it's done for you in your life, how did you deal with the negativity in a football result sense that would come quite a few times in those prelim finals, I guess? Yeah,
we blew it. As simple as that. And Terry Wallace certainly reinforced that with us at that school. The next morning, you turn up to the club and you just sort of, the Eskies in the middle and everyone's sort of, pretty flat and just starting to try and get on with the next day. And Plough reinforced that. But what he did the year before changed our whole mentality around being the best preparers in the game. So we started in 96 in October. No one had ever done that before. So we went from 15th on the ladder, second last, to missing a grand final by a point. So there was we blew it and that initial disappointment. But then there was look what you've done, really. So if you come back and start to set things up properly, we can go again. So there was the heartache. But it does turn. That's probably why I am the way that I am, because it turned to, don't lose sight of what we actually did do and where we actually can go to. So the following year was very similar. We were as fit as anyone in the competition. All our levels went to a world we didn't know existed. And we make another prelim final. This time we thought retribution on the Adelaide Crows, and Andrew McLeod turned it on and we couldn't stand him. Yeah. So, and we got beaten quite easily on that in that particular game. So Plough was so good at that he would hit you between the eyes, but then also never lose sight of either you as the individual or us as a team on where we were going and the path that we were on, because of pure work rate and doing things differently in the comp, like warming up on the ground for the first time. No one had done that.
Yeah.
So we were the first club to go out there.
What did Plough say?
Well, we didn't know what we were doing, Howie.
Right. First club to ever do it.
We went out in the ground and we just basically did P&F stretches and some groin stretches and some calf stretches. And we're doing it out in the ground instead of doing it in the small change rooms. But then you start doing your run-throughs, then you do triangle goals, just basic drills. But we're doing it out on the ground because Plough had travelled overseas and saw that every other sport that he went to would warm up out on the ground. Yet we're in a change room that's 20 by 20.
So how long till other clubs? Next week?
Well, it took a little bit because it had to start negotiating around the reserves had finished quite late.
Okay.
When could we get out there because the reserves are still playing. So there was all those little things that had to happen. But once we started, because we got results in terms of our performance and the rise in performance, starting well, all these things, it doesn't take long for the competition to jump on board. And so that innovation was pretty exciting to be a part of as well.
And from a team perspective, obviously, and you mentioned at the start through Zena and why you got into it to fuel that competitive desire. So you've played in 5 prelim finals. So we're both very lucky to work at Fox. And you see it there during finals. And like I often think about like Derm's there. Strutting around. And he's got his 5 day, 5 night. That's the first thing we think of, day, 5 night.
Of course we do.
And then Geordie Lewis wanders in and he's got his 4 round his neck. And then you got the Chief who's got 4 as well. And Lynchy and Brownie have got 3. And like, they just swag around. Like you can hear the medals tinkling along their chest. And then there's unbelievable footballers like yourself and Nick Revolt and Nathan Buckley who don't have the premiership. To you now, is that a different part of your life? Is there a what if, or it's just I gave my all and that's all we could do?
Well, no, there's always the what if. I think it still sits there, and every now and then you go to that world of, that frustration of not having that opportunity to win one. But the thing with I was so young in 97, 98 that it's more 08, 9, and 10 that I look at as the 3 opportunities that we missed. 09 was our best opportunity. 08, we're coming back into some finals footy under Rocket. And
you come across the red hot Hawks too.
The
big Bart and the Rough and the Cyril and Hodgie and Mitch.
And then you had the Cats were flying, Saints were powerful.
There's some great teams.
Good teams. And it's hard. Top 4 footy's tough.
Yeah,
it's tough to win. You got to be a little bit of luck involved and also then the execution of game plan. And 09, we executed so well. And in the end, Nick kicks a couple of goals late and they just get us. We're 7 points up halfway through the last quarter. Yeah. So that was the one. At 10, we were sort of beaten up a little bit. But in all those 3 prelims, you mentioned about just giving it you all. Honestly, I sit there comfortable because I know that every single player on our list, or the 22 that played in particular on those days, they left nothing out there. And I was privy to witnessing that. And so I sort of sit here, disappointed we didn't make it for the club, but knowing that we couldn't have done any more in those 3 years of challenging. So does that help? Yeah, that just helps in terms of my own mental state of not ever having that opportunity to play in a grand final and more importantly, win one.
Well, you talk about the mental state. The one thing I really wanted to talk to you about is, we've never talked about this, is the power of positive thinking. And I thought to myself, okay, I've seen Johnno play footy, and I think it was it Rex that termed the smiling assassin call?
It was.
The great Rex Hunt, who at his best was the best. I think we'd probably still all agree with that. But then in your Hall of Fame induction video, Tommy sent it to me, and there's you as a 17-year-old when you got drafted, and you've got this massive smile on your face. So were you always smiling for you? Is that just a natural facial expression? And are you like anyone, I would say, in the football world, what's Johnno like? Cracking bloke, so positive. Like that's the first thing. So tell me about smiling and positivity and whether it's learnt behaviour or it's natural behaviour, and what do you reckon it does for you in life?
No, it's definitely natural. I've just always loved sport passionately, Howie, and I know you do as well. And it's easy to become obsessed with the sporting world as a whole, but in particular the number one sport that you love. And I always had the mentality, and maybe I was taught it early. I can't remember a specific conversation, but it was regardless how hard things are getting or how poor your performance may be, don't ever fall out of love with this game, because this is what's got you to this sort of point, is that you've fallen in love with something. Just because you might have a poor performance or your team's not going as well, it's actually still okay. You can come out the other side of it if you plan well, and so my positivity, or my ability to sort of be up all the time, and that it's just a natural thing. I love it. I've got energy to burn, and I just love that team environment and seeing teammates thrive and the club thrive, individually thrive, and work as best as you possibly can. And that's why I never got too disappointed, because I knew I put everything into every session, into every week, into every game, into every year. So I'm good with that. I'm actually happy with that.
And that attitude's funny. At home, the last couple of years, the little fella, the big penguin, got onto it alone. I don't know if you've ever seen Alone, where they go.
No.
So it's a hardcore reality TV show, Johnno. There's Australian versions at the moment, actually in New Zealand, but they did one in Tassie. But we've gone back and watched past series. But for those that haven't watched the show, the gist of the show is you're out on your own. You get 10 items. You're in the bush. Often it's sort of was based in Northern America at the start, so it was extremely cold. And you survive as best you can, hunting, fishing, building your own shelter, lighting your own fires. And the person that lasts the longest wins the cash. And I always thought, I'd be good at this show. And then I saw the first night, I'm sitting in front of the fire at home eating ice cream, thinking, come on, lift a bit there. And I thought, I'm not sure I'd be so good at it. But Johnno, whenever the series starts, Mako and I always have a chat, and we try and guess at the 10 who do we think is going to win. And extraordinarily, in the first episode, the person that puts out the most positive attitude, that is smiling on camera, invariably wins the competition, because they maintain that positive view of life when shit on this show gets really hard. And they haven't eaten for 10 days and they can't catch the fish and it's minus 10 degrees. And so from your perspective as a really positive dude, what do you reckon positivity has done for your life? Because you would see, especially in a footy club environment, you'd see a bloke running out there going, no, I'm not going to get a kick today, and being down, but you're there with a smile on your face. Don't
get me wrong, I still had those thoughts as well.
Absolutely.
So, there was always questions yourself running out, am I going to get a kick today? Am I going to be able to influence this game? So you always had those question marks, but it's kind of funny. You'd always have them either maybe drive into the game, or as you're sort of in that first initial get into the change rooms. But once you got onto the ground, you go into this whole different world. I found myself in a whole different world where there was just nothing else except this oval, and I couldn't even see anything else, to be honest with you, Howie. So I was just so into this little patch of grass sort of thing. So that was my world. So I was able to stay in that. And I sort of found myself, if I did play poorly, I could hear things that I wouldn't naturally hear, whether it's a crowd or whether it's, your mind, your thought process goes somewhere else that didn't naturally sort of happen for me. So that was why I was able to stay in that positive frame of mind, with doubts, no question. There was doubts along the way, but I got taught early, prepare to expose, and that
prepare to expose.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing for me, being the player that I was and the height that I was. I had to prepare hours upon hours every week. How am I going to expose because it was direct opponent play back then. How can I expose the guys that are going to line up on me effectively each week? And because I knew to the finest detail my opponent, with all the vision that I'd watched on them and previous weeks leading up, as you do, that I was that confident that if I took him here, or if I led this way, he's no good on the left-hand ball, he's only a right-hand. All these little things that I knew for my position, that I was just fully confident. So that's why I was able to sort of positively keep getting through, because I prepared to expose my opponent as best I could on a weekly basis.
Prepare to expose, I like that. So, Johnno, if I was going to say to you, we have the ability to show vision in this screen behind us. Tommy and I have chosen 2 bits of vision from your 364 game career, 558 goals.
Why is my mind going?
Well, hang on. 3-time Western Bulldogs BNF, 5-time leading goal kicker, 6-time All-Australian, 4-time international rules, 3-time Victoria State of Origin, 21 finals, all-round guru.
What do you got?
Well, 2 bits. I want you, I can keep a straight face.
I know where you're going.
No, you don't.
Okay.
What are the 2 bits of vision we're going to show?
Well, It's either we're talking positive or negative vision.
Can
you give me a little bit of?
No, you know me as a person. No, I just want you to pick 2 bits of vision.
Well, it's either. Does it involve a golf cart at all?
Actually, now 3 bits of vision. I've changed it. 3 bits of vision.
Damn.
It might be a golf
Gary
cart.
Moorcroft.
Oh! Give me one more.
I don't know. I'm missing after a
Let's
siren. I
start,
don't know,
Tommy. Let's start with Brad Johnson in his 300th game. A record-breaking game for his club. Often the milestone men can't match up. So tell us about this day and the second. So we're watching vision of you running out. You got your kids there, Johnno. That'd be young Jack Johnson you got there.
Yeah,
300. So there's Acker getting out there. Yeah. Tell us about the day and the vision we're about to see. You're against the Crows. Half time, you're down by 2 goals. Gene Syracuse, someone drives it deep. You haven't kicked a goal at this stage. Take it away, Johnno.
No, it was an amazing week, to be honest, Howie. But it was.
You just kicked your
a
first?
I just got one. I hadn't had a kick in the first half.
Right, amazing week.
So it was a huge week, and
you've marked one in the pocket here. You're still down by 4 points. You've decided to play on, which is a bit hungry. Now you've kicked 2.
You pretend to pass.
Right, talk me through it. You've kicked 2 now.
Points. I've got a couple, and then during the last quarter, I got lucky twice.
You're still behind.
Adam Cooney kicks the best pass I've nearly ever received in the game.
Well, you've just kicked your 3rd from Big Brian
I get lucky. This one here, Coons out of the middle of the ground,
Bang!
lace out, absolutely lace out. It was
you're a goal in front at this stage.
Kick. I actually remember before that, Lindsay Gilby tapped me on the backside and said, "You got this, Johnno." Like, the little things that you remember, and I get lucky here that my direct opponent punches it back to the goal square. 4 points up, a minute to go. So there's the sealer. No. So Adelaide had a shot after the siren in this game that no one talks about.
Oh, yeah. Tommy, we don't have that. I didn't see that on the clip.
So,
who missed it?
It's is it Nathan Bock?
I don't know.
Nathan Bock,
the big boy that went to Gold Coast.
So they get the ball and they get it to half forward, and he has a shot after the siren, but it's a far pocket, tough shot,
right?
And luckily for us, he missed it. So that was so
you kicked 5 in your 300th. Now you mentioned a couple other bits of vision. You mentioned some bloke from Essendon.
Always.
I wasn't going to play it, Tommy.
It gets shown that much.
But now Johnno's brought it up. You might have heard of a bloke called Gary Moorcroft. Tommy, I don't know if you've pre-prepared the vision.
Look at the vision now.
Well, let's have a look.
This is in 4K, isn't it?
Have a look. What happened here, Johnno? Talk us through it.
I'm playing in the... I don't know why I'm playing in the back pocket.
Yeah, it's a good question.
It's a really good
Lucas
question.
drives it forward.
Yeah.
All heavens above.
Exactly where he was, wasn't he?
Well, he was.
He was.
You look stunned.
When I stood up, I look around and 45,000 are on their feet, including Doggies fans. Right. What the hell just happened?
Doggies fans.
They were like, this is just, it was ridiculous, wasn't it?
Was anything said with Gary or like you've seen the replay on the big screen, yeah?
Yeah, and I'm just sort of standing there going, at the time I didn't know how big it was because I'm underneath it. But I do remember hearing Ben Harrison, who was standing behind me, instead of spoiling it, he cheered the mark. Like, that's how big it was. Right? So I remember him going, yeah! Oh! So I stand up, I look at the replay on the big screen, and I remember afterwards just giving Gary a little, like, you're flat and shattered, and they smashed us that night. I said, that's fair grab, mate.
Fair grab. Right. How often, like I mentioned 364 games, how often is the first thing someone comes up to you and talks about Moorcroft?
Yeah, it's at least 20 times a season, minimum. Because Fox do play it a bit. Then even Jamie Elliott taking the mark he did.
Yes.
All of a sudden, Gary Moorcroft's getting shown again. So, but actually, I love it because, I'm on the bottom of it and it is what it is. You know, that's just part of footy. But it was an all-time grab.
Yeah, it was.
It's all-time.
It is. So, because Elliott took the mark a week and a half ago, Gary's name came up and there was an interview with him in the newspaper. It would have been the Herald Sun, and he's still playing. Yeah, he's just retiring, I think, now. Retiring.
Yeah. So
extraordinary.
I couldn't believe, because after that, he, as you can imagine, he hurt his hip pretty bad, I think.
Well, mate, and his head when he hit the roof at Muddy Colonial Stadium or whatever it was.
It did him no favours, I think, in terms of his health. And I'd love to sit down with him one day and just go talk to him about that. And so, but to his credit, he's played local footy for a very long time. I played against Gary in the under-18 competition. So we crossed paths as juniors, and he was doing that at under 18
Was he?
level, like taking hangers
Wow.
everywhere. It was just this pocket rocket that could just explode. He was a very good player, and they beat us actually in the under 18 grand final. So there was him and Chris Johnson and Jared Malloy, all these players sort of back then. Adam Simpson was
Jared
playing.
Malloy, the big D9.
Yeah.
That's what Sandy used to call him. Now,
That's
you mentioned one other division that I wasn't thinking about. You mentioned a golf cart. Now, this is not
Damn,
on a golf course.
No.
Tommy, do you have the vision where, yes,
I hope not.
he's just saying 1 minute. So give me the lead up. You had injury concerns at this stage?
So I'd just come back from an Achilles soreness over the summer, and it was ended up being my last year.
Right, I'm not surprised.
So we played round one. I'm just having some muck around shots, and Howie, tell me the person who thought it was a good idea for golf carts to be on a footy oval. Just
low percentage.
Please tell me that.
It sounds low percentage.
So
what's
the whistle blows. The boys are training. The property steward at the time, he's just whistle goes. He's gone.
He's on the
going
golf
out
cart
there to get the drinks to the boys.
Now, you're such a
doing
nice
all
bloke.
that.
This is a Howie Games exclusive for the first time. Tell me what the dude's name was.
No,
driving.
that's Noel. Noel's a star. Right?
Okay.
But this is the thing, right?
Noel's a star, but...
So Noel gave me when I was a junior.
What's his surname?
Kinnerborough.
Noel
When I was a junior,
Yep.
Noel, we weren't allowed to go and do Auskick. My primary school didn't have it, but Mossfield Primary did. And I had to get clearance. Noel gives me clearance
Noel did.
to go and play Auskick or Vic Kick at Mossfield Primary. And then I went and represented the Bulldogs as a Oz kicker.
So Noel set you on
So
your
Noel
path.
set me on the path, right? And
So the whistle blows.
So
You've got to dodge
whistle
your
blows,
Achilles.
I'm just standing there, and the cart comes into me. Now,
Yeah.
it doesn't hit me hard, Howie.
Roll the videotape.
Let's be honest here, right?
Let's have a look.
It's not the biggest hit
You just done
in
it.
the world.
Oh!
Right? So there's nothing, right? So honestly, that's probably the biggest reaction I've seen.
You've kicked a check side,
there's-
and he's driven straight into your Achilles.
But the problem was,
Yes.
underneath the cart
Yes.
was a box.
Right.
And the box clips me right on the Achilles. So instead of it being normal size, which we'd worked hard to get it to,
Yes.
it blew up instantly.
Oh.
And so I miss a month of footy.
A
month by getting hit by a golf cart.
Noel's heart and soul. How's he feeling about this?
Flat, as you can imagine.
First time I've seen you on
the
screen
thing
not smiling, Johnno.
And I've seen Noel a lot, and we've still got a great relationship, as you could imagine. But the thing with Noel, he started my career, Howie.
He
He finished it
He
as
might have
well.
thought you were getting a bit long in the tooth,
think
Johnno.
so. Time to go.
Johnno,
Time to go.
what are we going to do?
But
Let's run him over with a golf cart.
It's the first time I experienced injury in my life, to be honest. I never missed games with injury throughout the whole time, and that was a tough to get through. And then deciding to retire at the end of the year. But it's quite funny. You chase an injury to get it better. I've got to go this. I went to tendon flickers and I went to the Institute of Sport, and I'm doing everything to get it back up and going. And in the end, I couldn't really get it right. And I stopped playing, and a month later, it goes away, and I've never felt it again in my life.
Come on,
So I'm
Noel.
like, what the hell? You just got to stop sometimes, Howie. You
Big
just got
Noel.
to stop.
So after your footy career, you've gone and carved a fantastic career in the media, and you see some athletes come in on the back of their deeds and last a short period of time, but you see others, of which you are one. So how long have you would have been working in the media now?
13 years
So-
since finishing.
So a lot of the youngsters, like I'm always with my son. He's like, Dad, who's that bloke you're working with? I could say Brad Johnson. He'd say, who did he play for? So the new generation don't understand what you've done on the football field, so they don't have an affinity to you. So now you're being purely judged on what you're doing on radio
That's
and
a good
TV.
call. Never thought of it
Not
that
on-
way.
So the fact you've lasted 13 years means credit to you, and you're doing a fantastic job of it. You started, like, I remember Das telling me, he'd told the club, Luke Darcy, if there's ever interview requests or whatever, I'll go and do them because I can see the advantage of this down the track. Was it similar for you?
Yeah, so I started I started about 10 years before I retired.
Did you?
Doing things, yeah.
What
So,
can you remember the first?
it was more, I was just doing some basic sort of TV shows, doing more appearances, but it was more
What type of
like
TV
live
shows?
and kicking.
Oh,
I
yeah,
remember
live
doing
and
that.
kicking.
So that's where Jace Dunstall
That was the chief.
The chief brought me in straight away, and this is why I love the chief, because he brought me in straight away and he said, look, you're young, you're just working things out. Stay close to me, and I'll you'll
I'll
be
show
right.
you the
So,
ropes.
yeah, and he
Live
was,
and kicking.
Yeah, so that was
against
I was
the
raw.
it was against the footy show type
Yep.
of setup, wasn't
And then I did, and then Fox had Oz Kicking Around.
Right.
So I did Oz Kicking Around with Matty Lloyd, I think, for a bit. Daniel Harford was doing it
just
as well.
Just going hanging out with the
So we'd
kids.
go and do record a show every week in Fox at the old studios, and we'd have guests come in and the kids, and so that was so doing my own show really fueled. Yeah, I love doing this. And then I also had an arrangement with the club, not similar to Darcy in a way, but I spoke to the club around, this is what I want to do post footy. So, and this was early on, don't ever, if I'm playing poorly, don't pull it, because you can get pulled from media, you're doing too much here, your focus isn't right.
Yes.
And I remember at the time they sort of said to me, you know what, you're the first player that's ever sort of come and spoken to us this way. So we'll let you go. That's what you want to do post footy? Go for it. So they were great. Terry Wallace was great, Peter Rode was great with it, and then Rodney Eade was fantastic with it. So the club at no stages was going to stop my development in the media space, so that when I finished, I could step straight into it. I'm an organised guy, Howie. I've got to have things in a row, and I've got to be, if you're coming out of playing, that I had to have something ready to go for that next phase of life. And that's been the same with school, university. I've always had to remain busy. When I was busy playing, I played my best footy.
Did you go through uni?
I went through uni.
What'd you study?
I studied rec management at Vic Uni.
Okay.
So 3-year course.
Nice and close.
I wanted to do phys ed, but I didn't get the TER at the time. I was playing as well, so my focus wasn't purely on footy.
Obviously.
At the time. So I ended up with like a 68 or a 69 TER, which was okay. And then got into rec management, loved that, did 3 years of that. And then I did a minor degree in tourism as well. So I became really good at organising the footy trip, Howie. that was my go-to.
Oh, I love it. So
was it.
Your first full-time media gig post-career, was it TV or radio?
No, TV.
TV.
So I've never done...
So with Fox?
I've only recently just started doing some radio.
So was that with Fox?
That was with Fox from the outset.
So who were you working with at the start then?
Well, Jace.
Yep.
Jared Healy Jared and I would be in Perth every Sunday. So that was a great one because I was so young and raw. Jared was
very
perfect.
generous, Jared too.
BT. I remember my first ever interview, BT stitched me up a beauty.
Go on.
He goes, you're going to interview Aaron Sandlands. I'm like, great. So my first interview post-playing, I'm standing on a box interviewing Aaron Sandlands. Like, no, you got to get even height with him. They've totally lied to me. So half the interview, the camera's obviously down on this box. And I felt like a fool, right? So first interview after retiring, I'm standing on a box with Aaron Sandlands, who's just laughing his head off going, what are you doing, mate?
And so now, it's Friday when we're doing this. So this will come out, obviously, in a few weeks. You and I are privileged enough to be going to Carlton Collingwood. You'll be working for SEM, where you're doing a great job, and then you'll be working with Fox over the weekend. So you've got now a high-profile media job. When you go, we did a game last week, Adelaide North in Tassie. When you go to the radio or the TV, what are you trying to bring to the table, Johnno?
Just to be me, to be honest, start with. I'm not trying to be something that I'm not. And I'm honest with my appraisal, but I'm also pretty positive with it as well. I see where players can go. If they make a mistake, I like to see how they can rectify that with themselves, or their teammates can help them rectify that. So I try and just bring that positivity to the table. I love this game, Howie. So that's it. If I can bring that across, that I'm passionate about it and I can deliver that in the right way, but also be honest in my appraisal of the way the game is going when you're commentating, that's as simple as it is for me.
Quite a while ago, I spoke to Dylan Buckley.
Yep.
Who does an amazing job with his podcast.
Awesome.
And he is a prime, if you haven't listened to Dylan Friend, you should. It's a great show, great podcast, and he's got various offshoots of that. He's a perfect example of a guy that didn't play 364 games and wasn't a household name that told, in his words, the Giants, I want to do media. So I catch up with him, not enough, because I always learn a lot from Dylan. And he was telling me that, he was showing me various examples of basically co-watching the game with a YouTube channel. So you could be watching the game and you could watch 2 dudes and 3 dudettes commentating their own way on a YouTube channel. There's nothing against that.
Yep.
I feel, Johnno, we should get together at some stage, get Tommy on the YouTube, because I've always wanted to call a Formula One race. I used to work on Formula One, carrying the cables.
I love where you're going
I
here,
think
Howie.
I'm
I love
Croft
this.
and you're Brundle, and we get I think we choose one of those like Mexico, 3 a.m. starts, where we don't get a big audience at the start, and we are a companion call.
Love this.
Because I've always wanted to call
Love
Formula
it.
One race. We get the full timing screens in front of us, Johnno. I'll call you start, and then you start analysing the apex of the corner. Can you pull this off, great man?
Yes, definitely.
Tommy, can
We're
we
gonna give
organise
this a
this?
go.
Is there any illegal breaking of rights?
Surely not.
No, I don't think so.
I think there is on YouTube. Is
Well,
there?
surely not. You can do what you want on YouTube.
Of course you can.
So when this comes
We're
to pass,
doing it.
when this comes to pass,
How funny would that be?
I think I've always wanted to commentate a Formula One race.
It sounds like you want to be serious, though.
No, I don't want to be serious.
You want to
no,
get this
no,
right.
No. I want to be how I'm on the couch at home. Erica and I, when it was Lewis versus Max in that phenomenal year, she was Team Max, I was Team Lewis. We would start off on the couch nicely at 10 p.m. at night, arms around each other. By lap 10, I'm like, it was Max's fault. She's like, it's Lewis's fault. We'd be blowing up. So I think we can make this happen, Johnno.
It'll work.
I think we can make this happen. Mate, thanks for coming on the podcast. Good luck with everything with Zena. Once more, the website for people to get involved.
Yeah, zenasport.com.au.
So get your footy club involved. It's not just footy clubs. Just check it out. If you think this is something you could help your athletic career, if you're a woman, Johnno is the man, and he'll come and sort it out for you.
Awesome,
Absolutely
mate.
perfectly.
Thank you so much.
Stay safe. Enjoy the footy. Keep smiling.
You too, mate.
Good on you, mate. Well done.